I have seen the storm. The storm is coming, and his name is Crow's Eye. What is dead may never die. Welcome to another episode of The Black Dread. I am the Last Targaryen. I'm here on the Iron Islands, and I'm waiting for a ship. So in the meantime, I figure I will just talk to you guys a little bit about the king of the Iron Islands. Who is the king of the Iron Islands? Euron, third of his name, Greyjoy, also known as the Crow's Eye. Now, what I would like you to do is take everything you think you know about Euron Greyjoy and forget about it. Nothing you saw about Euron Greyjoy on the HBO show The Game of Thrones is accurate at all. So, me being the Last Targaryen, the keeper of the lore, I'm going to go ahead and set you guys straight. Euron Greyjoy is the eldest of Balon Greyjoy's 3 younger brothers. He's got younger brothers. We have Euron, Victorion, and we have Aeron. When we talk about Euron, most people will think, oh, he was just kind of like a Jack Sparrow type, the Johnny Depp character. He was this really funny pirate. We saw him on TV. Oh, does she like a finger in the bum? Just this weird, over-sexual, rapey character. Well, he is kind of rapey, but we'll get to that in a minute. He's all he talks about is wanting to just bugger the queen. I'm going to bugger the queen. I'm going to beat the queen. That's not Euron Greyjoy. This man should be up there in terms of who you fear. He is above Ramsay Bolton in terms of sadistic, evil, just behavior. He's got Tywin Lannister. He's got Gregor Clegane. He's got all of them beat. Euron Greyjoy is the one to fear. What about his character? He's like extremely charismatic. He's handsome. He's got this really long black hair, jet black hair. And he has one bright blue eye. And that's what they call his smiling eye. He wears an eye patch, however, I don't even think he lost his eye. I think he's hiding that eye for the right time. Theon, his nephew Greyjoy, refers to it as his black eye with malice. So what we think is that eventually Euron Greyjoy is going to release that malice onto the world, and we'll get to that. This is probably going to have to be a 2-part video because the Ironborn are so important to the story. The way the show Game of Thrones, the way they did the Ironborn, it's just like kind of the backstory. But when we start getting into books 3 and 4, and especially 5, and then book 6, which is going to probably be my second video, we see how important the Ironborn are. In fact, they are one of the main plots. They're like one of Cersei's biggest antagonists is Euron Greyjoy at this point, especially in Feast for Crows. So let's get a little bit more about that. So we know Euron Greyjoy, he does have the ship, the Silence, and that is true. So he has this big, massive pirate ship, the Silence, and he takes all of his crew and he cuts their tongues out because I guess he doesn't want them ever speaking of the atrocities and the horrific things that he does and that they see. So he guides his crew, he rips their tongues out and it's silence. Euron Greyjoy, he's got a couple of bastard kids that he doesn't even really care about. And what we know about one of his bastard kids is that he is described as having woolly hair and dark skin. So that tells us immediately that we know Euron Greyjoy has been, reaving and raping his way through the Summer Isles. He's traveled all over the world. He's been to places that men don't even talk about going to. Some men fear these places. And we're going to get into that. And when I say that Euron Greyjoy is sadistic, he makes Ramsay Bolton look like Tommen Baratheon. I mean, this guy is one of the most manipulative creatures to ever walk the 7 kingdoms. He's known for, when he has his crew and they're out, running around, reaving and pillaging, he doesn't keep, anything of the swords and the gold and whatever the women that he gets, he doesn't keep it for himself. He gives the lion's share of it to his crew. He gives it right to his crew. So he's like, okay, that's cool. But why does he do that? Because he is so manipulative. He needs his crew to be able to be loyal to him so they can go on these suicidal missions with him. So with Euron Greyjoy, let's talk about the first time we meet him because we don't get to know a lot about his childhood, and I guess it's really not that important. He's raised on the Iron Islands just as Theon Greyjoy, and the rest of them were raised up until Theon was 10. So, he's raised with the idea of we do not sow, what is dead may never die. They do not believe in the 7-pointed star or the old gods. They have the drowned god, which is their own religion. And again, like I said, this is going to have to be a multi-part video because there's so much just depth to the Iron Islands that we have to explore each individually. So the first time we get to see Euron Greyjoy in action is actually off camera. It's during one of their rebellions. So they, Euron Greyjoy, they talk his father into joining Robert's rebellion. So let's join the Robert's rebellion. Let's get away from the Iron Throne. Let's become independent again. So they do that. Of course, the Greyjoys are unfortunately known for failed rebellions. So that didn't work out too well for them. They also tried to rebel again. Now, the Greyjoy Rebellion, which is when they decided again, listen, we're going to try again. We're going to be independent from the Iron Throne. We're going to be our own independent nation. The Irons bring back the old ways of our reaving and raping and just stealing and taking whatever we want. We want that back. So Euron Greyjoy is known for concocting the plan that destroyed the Lannister fleet. So if you ever heard of the Iron Throne, the Iron Fleet sailing into Lannisport and burning the ships, who gets all the credit for that? Victorian, because he is the leader of the Iron Fleet. He's the captain of the Iron Fleet. And he even boasts that I threw the first torch onto Tywin Lannister's flagship and set off the fires that burned the whole Lannister fleet right in Lannisport under their nose. But what we don't know is that plan was concocted solely by Euron Greyjoy. Every little move they make is Euron Greyjoy. That's his plan. And again, we'll get to why. Just remember that Euron Greyjoy is always in the back, letting other people, oh, no, go ahead. You can go out front. No, you go first. No, it's okay. I'm fine. I'll sit back here and chill. So after that, Euron Greyjoy accidentally rapes his brother's wife. Now, we have another one of these he said, she said situations that we had with Rhaegar and Lyanna Stark, whereas Euron insists that she came to me wet and ready, which is, a lot of information, but that's what he said. And Victorian is like, I doubt that. So what he does is he takes his wife and he just rapes her. I'm going to use quotes. He rapes her, and Victorian is like so disgusted by it that he beats his wife to death with his bare hands to save himself, from the dishonor of having this wife who's pregnant with his brother's child. But what he doesn't do, ironically, is kill his brother, because the Ironborn, who seem to be this just free will, do what you want, take what we want, we do not sow people, they have kind of a little bit of, honor amongst thieves type thing where kinslaying is frowned upon. So you may rape and pillage and steal, but you may not kill your brother. So Balon Greyjoy, since he's the king of the Iron Islands, decides, I'm going to banish you, Euron. Get out of here. We do not want to see you anymore. So he's like, fine, I'm going to leave. So he leaves. Now, this is where his story gets a little bit more interesting, is when he's banished from the Iron Islands. It is told to us that Euron Greyjoy has sailed his ship, the Silence, to places all over the world, such as Asshai and even Valyria. Now, why is that important to what's coming up for Euron? If you know anything about the city of Asshai, it's like this mystical, magical place where all of the reprobates of the society just can go and practice any type of witchcraft. The warlocks hang out there. It's said that the Azor Ahai prophecy and the Lord of Light religion is stemming from Asshai. All of the ancient scrolls about dragon lore is in Asshai. There's the warlocks openly practice their arts out there. And one thing about Asshai is that there is no practice, there is no ritual that is forbidden, no matter how depraved. Now, that is where Euron Greyjoy likes to hang out, a place where blood sacrifices and, any type of ritual that you can do and you can think of, no matter how blasphemous, Asshai's like, sure, cool, whatever, let's do it. So we know that Euron Greyjoy has been there. Also, we understand that during his travels, he came across 4 warlocks from Karth, and he's abducted them. And we think one of those warlocks may be Pyat Pri. Now, they were in the middle of looking for Daenerys because, just like we saw in the show, she went to the Tower of Undying and, she did Dracarys and she had the dragons and they blew them all up and, she left. They were not done with her. Just because the story on TV left it there, the warlocks from Karth are not done with Daenerys. So they are searching for her, and they came across, unfortunately, the Silence, and Euron has kidnapped them. So we think one of them might be actually Pyat Pri. So what Euron does is now he got these warlocks on his boat, and he's making them teach them all these type of rituals, and he's performing all of these sacrifices, and they actually got him drinking Shade of the Evening, which is this blue liquid, which is also like the Carthene version of LSD. You drink it and you get all these visions. They have Euron drinking Shade of the Evening all the time. So now when people describe Euron, his lips are blue. And that's the same thing they said about the warlocks, their blue lips. So we know Euron is messing with them. But one of the most fascinating things about Euron's travels since his banishment from the Iron Islands was that he said he has traveled to Valyria, my hometown. Now, I find that to be a little weird, but because if you know anything about Valyria, we know that the Doom happened in Valyria, which has killed most of the Dragon Lords. Valyria, if you will imagine, is just like an active volcano just everywhere. Like there's lava and fire, and the streets are just burning. There's gas. You can't breathe. You can't even sail close to Valyria. And Euron is like, oh no, I've been there. I've been there. I've been there plenty of times. You don't really believe him until you see what he has when he gets back to the Iron Islands. He has in his possession a dragon binder, which is ancient times, the old dragon lords, not just the Targaryens who could use their minds to bind their dragons. They had this huge long horn that they would blow, and it would connect them, bind them to the actual spiritual creature, the dragon. So now you know how the Targaryens are bound with their dragons. Not everyone can just jump on a dragon, but if you have this dragon binder, you can bind yourself to a dragon. Why does he want that? We'll talk about that. So he has that. He has a Valyrian steel suit of armor. There is no Valyrian steel left in the world, of course, because, Valyria is gone. So he has this. So we know that he's traveling to these mystical, magical places. He's captured warlocks. He's in Valyria, which, he's looking for dragon lore. He's even said to have had a dragon egg, actual dragon egg. And he hired some Mirish priests to try to hatch it. He says, I'll give you 1 year to hatch this egg. But Euron Greyjoy, being Euron Greyjoy, like a few months later, he's like, where's my hatched egg? And they're like, it's only been a few weeks. He's like, well, whatever. He kills them and throws the eggs away. He's, I'm tired of it. He just throws it away. So, nothing. And he kills them. That's Euron for it, So now here's where it starts getting a little bit more. This is where we catch up to him in Feast of Crows. Balon Greyjoy dies. Now, how does Balon Greyjoy die? On TV, we actually see Euron himself push him off of the bridge in the Iron Islands. That is not what happened. It is only implied that he killed him and that he may have had something to do with his death. In fact, there's a quote, and I have it right here, direct quote from the Ghost of the High Heart. Now, Arya, when she was traveling with the band of brothers, Balon Greyjoy and them during her arc, she's traveling with them, and they meet the Ghost of the High Heart, who's telling all of these prophecies, and, she's talking about Valancourt and the Azor Ahai prophecy. So she tells Arya she sees a man without a face waiting on a bridge that sways and swung, and on his shoulder is perched a drowned crow with seaweed hanging from his wings. So what I take from that is that Euron himself may have hired a faceless man to go and kill his brother. He's supposed to be out sailing, the world. He's banished, but Balon dies. And literally the next day, Euron is there. Oh, my brother's dead. Well, I am going to seat myself on the sea stone chair, and I am now king of the Iron Islands. Now, this man who's supposed to be banished and far away shows up so conveniently the day after the king dies. It's like, okay, no, there's something about this is not right. So immediately, his brother Victorian, who still hates him, is like, oh yeah, I remember what he did to my wife, and he made me beat her to death. I'm so mad at him. I can't believe he's back here. And the other brother, Aaron, the drowned priest, he's all religious and holy. He's all gassing him up like, yo, you should be the king here because let no godless man sit upon the throne. So he's like, gassing him up like, yo, I think you need to, we have king's mood. I think you need to make your claim. And we also know that Balon's daughter, Asha Greyjoy, is like, well, I'm the son of Balon. I should be on the king of the Iron Islands. But they don't do the same thing that Westeros does, whereas the king dies, it's his son automatically. In the Iron Islands, we do not so. You have to if you can take the throne, then you can have it. But they have this king's moot. And sometimes the king's moot breaks out into civil war, which is what we saw happen now. Because Victorian wants to be on the Iron, I keep saying the Iron Throne. He wants to be the ruler of the Iron Islands. Asha wants to be the ruler of Iron Islands. And there are other several like this Cleftjaw, and there's a few of them who come up and make their claim. So now we're having the king's moot, and Asha's like, I will rule the Iron Islands because I'm Greyjoy's living heir. They could never find Theon Greyjoy's body at Winterfell, so they're just assuming he's dead. So I am his only child. And they're like, one, you're a woman, so I don't know what you're talking about. And two, it doesn't matter here. This is the Iron Islands. This is not King's Land, and we don't just do that. You're not automatically going to be the king of the Iron Islands just because, you came out of Balon Greyjoy's nutsack. So it's like, that's not how that works here. So she's like, I'm going to bring us all this peace. We've been fighting all of these wars for the North and we have nothing to show for it. I'm going to bring us peace. And other lords are like, no, I should be on the Iron Throne because I'm going to do this and I'm going to take Westeros. And, Victorian gets up and says, we're going to go and we're going to conquer the Iron Throne. So then now you hear this loud, screeching sound. The sound has been described to have been the screaming of souls, which is the dragon binder. Euron Greyjoy has this priest blow the dragon binder, and the sound is like screeching. It's burnt. It's like cracking their bones, and they're like, stop. So he's up there like, I have this dragon binder, and you guys just want to take Westeros. I'm going to give you the whole world. It's like, well, how are you going to do that? He's like, I have this dragon binder here, and we're going to use it, and we're going to get dragons, and we're going to take over the whole world, just like Aegon the Conqueror did. And they're like, there are no dragons. He's like, aha, there are dragons in Meereen with Daenerys Targaryen. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get one of her dragons and I'm going to bind it to my will, and we'll use that. And whoever follows me and makes me the leader of the Iron Islands will share in all of my riches and my plunder, and we will reap and reave throughout the whole world. And what is dead will never die. So naturally, they're like, oh, yeah, I like that idea a lot better. Let's go with Euron. So they start calling his name, Euron. So Euron Greyjoy is the king of the Islands. Now, the first thing they start doing is invading the Reach, which is, one of the southernmost kingdoms that's close to the Iron Lines. They sail and immediately start going, start plunging and taking over castles. And since Victorian, he's the leader of the Iron Fleet, he goes to the Reach, he's killing, he's doing what he's doing because he still feels like, even though I hate Euron, he's the king, and I still have to, it's like if the drowned god put him there, it's the drowned god that has to remove him. That's what he keeps telling his brother, even though his brother's trying to amp him up, like, nah, man, I think you should do it. Man, I think you should be, his brother really doesn't want Euron to sit on the Iron Throne. Not because he doesn't like him, because he's just so religious. Like, this man is so blasphemous and ungodly. He should not be our king. Victorian's like, I can't really do anything about that right now. I have to do what he says. So let me go ahead and, just go. So they're in this castle called Oakenshield, which is a minor house in the Reach. So what he does is, they take over, they win the battle, they slay and kill everyone. So Euron's there. They have the owner of the castle tied up, like bound and gagged at the table while they're plunging and like, yay, we got this castle. And he's there just tied up watching everything, and they take his daughters and all of the women in the house, and he's got them just being raped, and they're serving them. And he takes one of the girls, they have them take all their clothes off, so now they're serving anyone naked. It's just like, talk about the disrespect. This man he does not care about anything. And he even tells one of the women, like, oh, Victorian, you can have this woman. He's like, I don't want to. He says, well, if you don't take her, I'll kill her. I mean, just like that. He just wants to manipulate everyone around him, especially his brothers. So now they're at this castle, and he's talking to his brother, and he's like, let me tell you my plan. He's like, you remember now when he lets his crew, you can have all the glory, you can have all of my spoils. I care about you guys so much, psych. So he tells his brother, I want you to take possession of this important artifact, this dragon binder, and I want you to sail to Meereen, and I want you to bring back Daenerys and her dragons and bring them here to me, and we will rule. And Victorian's like, what? It's like, why would you entrust that to me? You know how much I hate you. But Victorian, he's not exactly smart. So when he's like, oh, okay, that's great. He's like, yeah, what I'm going to do is I'm going to double cross him. I'm going to take the dragon binder. Since he had my wife, I'm going to have his wife. And he thinks he's going to go to Meereen and seduce Daenerys and use the dragon binder. He's going to blow the horn and have the dragons to come back and destroy Euron. But now remember what we talked about Euron Greyjoy. This is a master manipulator. So what he is, remember the guy at the King's Moot? He blows the dragon binder. What happens to him later is he dies. And they're like, oh, it was the stress of the horn. But when the maesters cut him open, they're like, no, his body has been like charbroiled, like his lungs, everything, like someone set a fire inside of him. So then they start looking at this dragon binder a little closer, and they're like, hey, it says on it that you will not sound me and live. And I'm like, Euron must know that. So he knows he cannot blow the dragon binder himself because he'll die. So he hands it off to his brother. And what the brother, of course, being stupid, doesn't know also is that the dragon binder will only bind the dragon to the owner of the horn, not the person who blows it. So Victorian's like, yeah, he can have it and go. If he thinks he's going to double cross me, he's dumb. Because what he's going to do, if he blows it, the dragons will still bind to me and he'll die. If he doesn't blow it and brings it back, I'll get someone else to blow the horn. The dragons, either way, someone's going to die and I will have the dragons. That's what Euron's thinking, because he's like, I need these dragons and I need all of this power for what's coming up next. And that's when we get to the Winds of Winter, unfortunately. Those scrolls have not been completely translated yet, but I do have a few of them. And in my next video, which is going to be part 2 to this, I'm going to go over a little bit of what's coming next, what his plans are, because we know Euron wants to be not just in charge of the Westeros and the Iron Islands. He wants to become a god, like an immortal creature like Naga, so he's planning on, well, I don't want to give too many spoilers, but what he's planning is this incredibly blasphemous blood sacrifice that he has to perform. And we're going to get into that a little later. So when we leave right now in Dance of the Dragons, when we leave Euron, that's where he is now. So he's not dead, but I'm the man who killed Jaime Lannister. No, that's not him at all. He is alive and well and planning. And one of the last things we hear about from Cersei in Feast of Crows is this Balon Greyjoy is getting ready to be, a bee in my freaking bonnet, and I am already tired of him. What are we going to do? So we know the Ironborn, especially what he has coming up for his drowned priest brother, Euron. The Ironborn are so important to the story. I just felt it was like such a disservice the way that the show did them, Theon became weak and then he charged into the Night King and dies, and Euron dies all stupid, and Asha, we don't know what happens to her. She just disappears, That's not exactly how it happened at all. So what we have to do now is just wait and see. Thankfully, the Black Dread is here, and like I said, I have some of those scrolls. I'm still working on translating them. My Valyrian is a little rusty, so I'm translating them, and I'll get those out to you in a fortnight or so. So, as you can see, I'm going to take a little of this shade of the evening for a test drive here and see what all the rave is about. And I'm going to settle in here in Pike and wait for my ship, and I'll see you guys next time. Thank you for tuning into the Black Dread. I am Billie Jean, the Last Targaryen. What is dead may never die.